I'm Connor and welcome to the 2023 Oscar predictions video. We've been counting down to this moment for months now in my 7th season covering the Oscars, predicting the nominations, predicting what's going to win. Now finally, this is the video you've all been waiting for, the video in which I will predict the Oscars for all 23 categories. If you're new to the channel, I've been breaking down the Oscars, predicting what I think is going to get nominated, and then of course is what's going to win all the way back since October. This is my 7th season covering the Oscars. We have a great historical track record of predicting the winners, both nominations and the winners. That's why you come to this channel, is to do an analysis, to go at all the categories, to make sure you get even the short categories as well as the actor and actor ones, to impress your friends, win your office pool, win some money, all that fun stuff. But just at the top of the show, to let you know, in terms of how this video is going to work, I'm going to be breaking down my predictions for all 23 categories. I'm not going to be talking a lot about the possible contenders, the sort of movies in the second or third slot, unless the categories are really tight, just for in the interest of time. And while this is the end of Oscar season, this is not the end of this channel. We've been doing this channel now for 6.5 years, and in the off months, we've been doing a lot of interesting film analysis series. So this upcoming Monday, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the Oscar show when it happens, and then the Monday following that, I'm going to be introducing a new series where I'm going to tier rank the Best Picture winners, the Best Actress winners for the respective decades, and sort of rank them that way. Should be a lot of fun, and we'll be doing that throughout the entire summer months. So subscribe to the channel if you want to hear that content too once the Oscar season is over. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's jump into the big one, Best Picture. And this is maybe one of the easier categories to predict, funnily enough. Well, it's not a guarantee. I think there's a strong chance that Everything Everywhere All at Once will win Best Picture at the Oscars. It is the winner of the Producers Guild Award, the Directors Guild Award, the Screen Actors Guild Award, the Writers Guild Award. It has won everything, all the important guilds that it need to. Didn't win BAFTA, but so it's maybe a little slightly concerning, but BAFTA, particularly their film predictions, have been inaccurate in recent years. That's because the Best Picture, unlike any of the other categories, Oscar members actually rank their preferences from 1 to 10, and the only other guild that uses that method is the Producers Guild Award. What won there? Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I'd be very surprised if it doesn't win, but we've seen upsets like 1917 winning DGA and PGA, or La La Land DGA and PGA, and then not winning at the Oscars. But Everything Everywhere All at Once seems to have the below-the-line support and the above-the-line support. I haven't really seen a movie like this that's been so dominant, probably since Birdman in 2014, in terms of how well it's done, in terms of all the sweeps and award shows it's winning. So I think that this is a pretty guaranteed to win for Best Picture. Best Director, I'm going with Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, the directors of Everything Everywhere All at Once, also known as Daniels. They won DGA and Critics' Choice Awards, which is a really dynamic and hard to beat combination. 8 out of the last 10 DGA winners ended up winning at the Oscars, so that's really telling. DGA very rarely gets it wrong. Of course, they're directors of the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, which has been dominating and we think is going to win for Best Picture, and we really don't see a number 2 contender potentially surprising and winning, because a director like Edward Berger, who won at BAFTA for Best Director, isn't even nominated here. So I do think that the Daniels have a strong chance of winning for Best Director. Now into the hard categories. Best Actor, I'm going to go with Austin Butler from Elvis. And it's kind of a 3-way race, but it's really a 2-way race between Austin Butler and Elvis and Brendan Fraser in The Whale. And that's because the sort of 2 main award show precursors in BAFTA and SAG split their votes. Austin Butler won the BAFTA, Fraser won the SAG. And then you could even say the lesser award shows that don't have any overlap with Academy members, things like Critics' Choice or Golden Globes, they also split between Butler and Fraser. So it's kind of hard to tell who's going to go, who the Oscars are going to go for. But for me, it makes the most sense to go with Elvis. It's got a lot of things going for it. First of all, Elvis is nominated for Best Picture, whereas The Whale is not. This matters a lot because the past 12 years in a row, the winner of Best Actor in this category also had their movie nominated for Best Picture. You have to go to 2009 Crazy Heart, Jeff Bridges. So it'd be an outlier if someone like Brendan Fraser were to win because The Whale didn't get nominated. And that's even with an extended 10 movies nominated for Best Picture. So at the end of the day, voters just like Elvis the movie more than they like The Whale. That this really matters, and we've seen upsets in this category be determined by that. For example, when Anthony Hopkins, he beat out Chadwick Boseman. Well, Anthony Hopkins' movie The Father was nominated for Best Picture. Chadwick Boseman's movie Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was not. Same thing with even 2018, Olivia Colman versus Glenn Close. Olivia Colman, surprise winner for The Favorite. Her movie was nominated for Best Picture. Glenn Close for The Wife, her movie was not. At the end of the day, Sometimes in these tough battles, it ultimately goes down to which movie do they like more, and right now we know that that's Elvis. Also, when we're comparing BAFTA and SAG, BAFTA's actually been more accurate, predicting the winner 8 years in a row, whereas SAG has actually missed predicting the winner, going with Chadwick Boseman recently, or Denzel Washington in 2016. They've had a couple slips recently, whereas BAFTA's gotten it right 8 years in a row. That's a really strong sign. So BAFTA a little bit more predictive in this category. Butler won that, so that's a positive sign. Of course, he also is a Best Picture nominee, as I just mentioned, so that's a strong sign. And then the final thing is he's playing a real life person. And if you look at this category, they love giving awards to people, famous people playing other famous people. As a matter of fact, 7 out of the last 10 winners went to someone portraying a real life person. They love these biopics, they love these true life stories, particularly in this category. 7 of the last 10 winners, most of the winners are these biopics, particularly for this category. Austin Butler playing an icon in Elvis, Fraser is not. I think that this is ultimately a combination of, do you believe in the narrative of Fraser and that comeback win, or Butler and the strength of his film? And in recent years, whether it be Anthony Hopkins' surprise in The Father, whether we see Olivia Colman beat out Glenn Close, whether we see Mark Rylance beat out Sylvester Stallone, these narratives of the actors don't always pay forward unless you have a strong movie to back it up with. Elvis is a stronger movie than The Whale. That's why I'm going with Austin Butler. Best Actress, I'm going to go with Cate Blanchett for Tar. And like Best Actor, this is a really close race between two people, either Michelle Yeoh or Cate Blanchett. And what I ultimately came down to was what were the precursors that they won. Of course, Michelle Yeoh won SAG, but Cate Blanchett won Critics' Choice Awards and BAFTA. And if you look at the past 10 years, no actress has won both Critics' Choice Awards and BAFTA and gone on to lose at the Oscars. That combination of wins is really indicative. Cate Blanchett won a Critics' Choice Awards even when that movie did super well, winning in picture and winning in screenplay. Cate Blanchett still won there. And for me, you go back to some of the things I talked about in the last category. Which movie is more well-liked? Well, Everything Everywhere All at Once is more well-liked, but Tar is super well-liked within the Academy. Let's not forget, on Oscar nominations morning, Tar overperformed with nominations, getting into editing, getting into cinematography. This group, the Academy, really likes Tar. So I think the question ultimately comes to me is, there's a split, right? BAFTA went with Cate Blanchett, Michelle Yeoh got SAG. When you're an Oscar voter, are you going to check off Everything Everywhere All at Once in every single category? Or are you going to look at all of your predictions and go, I've already given Everything Everywhere All at Once 5, maybe 6 awards. Do I really want to give it a 7th for Michelle Yeoh? So you have to ask yourself that question. Will voters really like Everything Everywhere All at Once so much that they want to give it 7, 8 awards? And that means ultimately making Tar go home empty-handed, because this is the best chance for Cate Blanchett to win? Hard to say. You could even say something like, oh, well, they don't want to give Cate Blanchett the 3rd Oscar. Or Michelle Yeoh, it's her time. Guys, we have to stop worrying about these narratives. These narratives don't always form through. These theories that we create in our own mind don't always happen. You have to sort of look at the facts. And even something like Frances McDormand in Nomadland, whoa, she's not going to get her 3rd Oscar. She does, because her movie's well liked and they like her. Similarly with Cate Blanchett, I think a similar situation's happening here. They like her movie. Because of that, so extras nominations, they like her, so they're not necessarily worried about giving her that 3rd Oscar. I think that's a little bit of a narrative that we create that Oscar voters don't always pay attention to. But I do think if they look at all their nominations and who they're voting for, I don't know if they're going to give Everything Everywhere All at Once that 8th Oscar win or that 7th Oscar win. They may want to give a little bit of support to Tar and give it through Cate Blanchett. Because in the past, you have to go more than past 10 years to find a Best Picture winner who has won more than 4 Oscars. The Shape of Water won 4 in 2017, but you have to go all the way back to The Artist in 2011 to see a movie win 5 Oscars or more. We just don't see it in the modern era. Parasite wins 3, Moonlight wins 2, Moonlight wins 3, Green Book wins 3. 3, 2, that's sort of a traditional path of winning Best Picture. So Everything Everywhere All at Once, it either has this sort of historical huge performance or it doesn't. It is the kind of movie that were to have that, but ultimately I think Oscar voters are going to go with, you know what, I think I'm going to reward Tar for a little bit of appreciation there. I'm already going Everything Everywhere All at Once in 5, 6, 7 categories. Show a little bit of support to Tar. The recent Academy has shown that they like to spread the wealth. I think that's going to hold true today here. Plus the fact that BAFTA is a very predictive award show, and particularly with the acting awards. And if you have that combination of BAFTA and CCA, which Cate Blanchett does, no actor has won both those two and lost the Oscar in the past 10 years. I think that's an interesting stat as well. Best Supporting Actor, I'm going to go with Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. No real surprise here. He has won pretty much every award show except for BAFTA. But if you include Golden Globes and Critics' Choice and SAG, he's actually beat out Barry Keoghan in 3 out of the 4 possible award shows. His movie is surging at the right time, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So a super well-liked movie. And he has the bonus combination of being a movie that is really well-liked. He's been winning everywhere else, so he has the stats behind him, but he also has the narrative. The fact that he's this child actor that everyone remembers from the Indiana Jones movies, and now he's finally come back to acting and gives this great performance. In every speech, he's very emotional and crying. You feel good voting for him. And if you look at recent Best Picture winners, whether it be Moonlight or Green Book or Coda, the combination of Best Supporting Actor and Best Picture is actually really strong. So I think if we think Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to win for Picture, plus all the stats, plus all the narratives, Kwan should easily win for Best Supporting Actor. Then in Best Supporting Actress, I'm going to go with Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this is maybe the toughest category to predict. Definitely of the acting categories, probably the toughest category to predict on the night. We really have a bunch of dissenting opinions. Angela Bassett won Critics' Choice and the Globes, but Carrie Condon won BAFTA, but Jamie Lee Curtis won SAG. So we could definitely see a surprise win, and I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen. But the way I sort of did my analysis was I looked at the other 2 films and the other 2 possibilities, and they didn't necessarily seem like possible winners to me. Because I look at someone like Angela Bassett. She has the veteran status. She has a lot of appreciation within the Academy and within Hollywood because she's been working for a long time. I think she has a lot of respect as an actor. But unfortunately, she sort of peaked early. She lost the BAFTA. She lost the SAG. Those are 2 bad losses for her. Her traditional path would be someone like a Regina King, who'd had a similar path and then ultimately won the Oscars in 2018. But Regina King wasn't nominated for SAG or BAFTA, so she had a little bit of an excuse there. Angela Bassett was nominated for BAFTA and SAG and didn't get in. Plus, Black Panther Wakanda Forever disappointed in terms of nominations. The Oscars didn't like it as much as we thought they would. It's also a superhero movie. I know that's a little bit of a weird argument, but there is a stigma, I think, of people within the Academy that just don't want to reward superhero movies at all. And in a close race, that's going to hurt her. So I think her momentum sort of died down. Her movie's not super well liked. And I think that people are going to have a bit of a superhero bias. Then the other contender, Carrie Condon from Banshees of Inisherin. Her movie is really well liked, but she only won a BAFTA. She didn't win at SAG. She's also sort of new within, particularly Hollywood. I don't think anyone really knows her within Hollywood, so she had to do a lot of campaigning to really get out there and in front of people. She hasn't really. If you look at someone like Austin Butler, he's been at every party, he's been shaking every hand, kissing every baby, he's been really doing the campaigning. But Carrie Condon has less, so she hasn't been as much out there. So she's more known within the international members of the Academy, but even then, even in the UK and Ireland, she's still seen as more of a character actor, and this is her big outcoming party. So she won BAFTA, which is good, but let's not forget the Banshees of Inisherin has also sort of been underperforming. It probably should have won a Best Film at BAFTA, or should have won Best Director at BAFTA, or even Colin Farrell. Why didn't he win Best Actor at BAFTA? There's a little bit of disappointment that you think the Banshees of Inisherin would do really well at BAFTA. It didn't. It was really only done well at the Globe so far this season. So Carrie Condon's movie is well liked, but I don't think she's as well known of a name. I don't think she's the absolute standout from the film to be so obvious as to go, well, she's the best part of the movie. Of course they're going to give her the win there. She seems like a little bit of an atypical winner, particularly in this category. And then I came to the realization that Jamie Lee Curtis actually has the best reasoning, at least in my mind, just because she's a veteran actor. She's been working since the 70s. Everyone in Hollywood knows her or has worked with her at some point. Even within the international members of the Academy, she's been in classic movies, so much so that people recognize her and know her name. I also think that the fact that she won SAG and she had a televised awards speech right before Oscar voting happened, she gave a great speech. She really captured that moment and gave her heart out to being an actor and giving that speech. So there's a strong sort of push for her right at the very end. She's a well-known name, and she's in a movie that is well-liked. I predict that Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to be the Best Picture winner. And let's not forget, it did so well at SAG. It won 3 acting awards and an ensemble award. The actors love this. So in a tight category like this, you have to look at what's the largest group of the Academy? The actors. So SAG matters a little bit more in my mind. Then you look at the movie. She's in a movie that's more well-liked than the Banshees of Inisherin. So in an uncertain kind of a category, I rely back to my standards, my fundamentals. Are you in a Best Picture movie? Is your movie well-liked? And are you well-known and well-liked? And which group of the Academy, the largest group, the actors, liked you the most because they gave you the win for SAG. Enough of that sort of, I think, pushes over the edge. It's going to be a really tough category. We could see a surprise, but I actually think Jamie Lee Curtis, because of the name brand, because of the appreciation of her film, she will win for Best Supporting Actress, but really tough category. Best Adapted Screenplay, I'm going to go with Women Talking, another really tough category. After BAFTA, I thought that maybe All Quiet on the Western Front would have a bit of a surge, and I was waiting for Women Talking to sort of stumble and sort of disappoint, and it didn't. It won at USC Scripter, it won at WGA, both which happened after BAFTA, and then I started to look at it and I go, well, what is the more typical kind of a winner? And that's Women Talking. Of course, I think it's important that it got in for Best Picture at the Oscars. Even though it only got one nomination aside from Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, it's notable that it still got in for Best Picture. It still has the fans there. It didn't get in, at Best Picture for a PGA. It still got in for SAG Ensemble. So it still has some fans, still has some appreciation. It's not completely dead. All Quiet on the Western Front, yes, is the more well-liked movie, but actually Women Talking is the more traditional winner because it has a combination of the Critics' Choice Awards, the USC Scripters, the WGAs, and if it were to stumble, if I were to pick something like All Quiet on the Western Front, it would have to stumble at WGA, because we've seen winners like last year, Licorice Pizza lost out to Don't Look Up. That was a little bit of a sign to us to go, hey, Licorice Pizza is more vulnerable than we think, and Belfast ended up winning. And I think we have to sort of look at those cues. And Women Talking didn't stumble, because it didn't stumble there, it didn't lose something. I thought the momentum would sort of be bad because he only got in for Best Picture. It's sort of been, at one point we thought it'd be a clear Best Picture nominee, maybe Sarah Polley, and then just hasn't performed at all. And some people may think, okay, maybe the momentum is dead, and maybe it is, but from what we've seen at WJ and USC Scripter, it hasn't slowed down, so we can't really use that as an argument. So the movie isn't as weak as maybe we once thought. And then you look at the sort of traditional winners of this category. Now, this may be a weird argument, but hear me out. If you look at the past 10 years in this adapted screenplay category, 9 out of the last 10 winners have gone to 2 screenwriters or 1, so 2 or less screenwriters. And 6 out of the last 10 winners went to only 1 credited screenwriter. This happens to the same thing on the original screenplay category. 8 out of the last 10 winners have been 2 or less credited writers. And 6 out of the last 10 winners on the original screenplay side also only have 1 credited writer. This is because there's a combination oftentimes between director and writer. So Taika Waititi, of course, is nominated for director, and writing wins for writing for Jojo Rabbit. Same thing with Sean Hayter for Coda, right? The writer-director, she gets appreciated in the writing. And then even in certain categories, I mentioned 9 out of the last 10 winners have gone to 2 credited screenwriters or 1. And the one instance where it was actually 4 credited screenwriters that won, it was the Black Klansman year. And what happened that year? That was the Spike Lee Oscar. I don't even know if people knew the other screenwriters. They just went, let's give Spike Lee an Oscar. Let's give Spike this prize. So I think, actually, if you look at past winners, this is important because Sarah Polley is the sole credited screenwriter on Women Talking, whereas All Quiet on the Western Front has 3 credited screenwriters. So historically, the writers actually like to appreciate the sort of singular voice, the authoritative factor, rather than 3-4 people. It feels a little bit more like a studio, like a factory, like there isn't a signature vision for the film, whereas something like Sarah Polley, the writer-director, she has a singular vision. Plus, if you look at the typical winners, Women Talking is much more of a dialogue-focused film. The writing is much more noticeable. It's all about writing. It's about people in a room discussing, having conversations, where All Quiet on the Western Front is very much about, at least in my mind, the visuals, the cinematography, the technical stuff, less so the writing and the screenplay. Now, All Quiet on the Western Front won Best Adapted Screenplay at BAFTA, so it's going to be a tight race, but I think the fact that it's only a single credited writer, has a singular voice, there's lots of dialogue in the film, the movie's still nominated for Best Picture. Women Talking is going to be an atypical winner, yes, but I'm still predicting it for Best Adapted Screenplay. Best Original Screenplay, I'm going to go with Everything Everywhere All at Once, because how I see the race and how I've seen the race for a long time is that this will probably win, at the very least, Screenplay, Supporting Actor, Picture. That's the traditional path. That was Everything Everywhere All at Once path since day one. Like we've seen movies like Green Book with a similar path. We've seen Moonlight with a similar path of Screenplay, Supporting Actor, and Picture. Now Everything Everywhere All at Once has been overperforming. I think it's going to pick up another acting award, also director as well. So it's going to overperform in that sense, but that's the traditional path. And I think a lot of people, they sort of misunderstand the Oscars, and they often go, oh yeah, you know what, Daniels are going to get directing, let's give it to Banshees of Inisherin for original screenplay as a consolation prize. But this idea of the consolation prize has been wrong since day one. It's a myth. If you look at years like 2017, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Martin McDonagh's last film, it lost out to Get Out, the more original, the more unique idea. This has happened before. Also, The Favorite, we thought, okay, it's going to win a Best Original Screenplay as a consolation prize, and then what happened? Green Book wins that and Picture too. Even something like last year, Kenneth Branagh for Belfast beats out Licorice Pizza because we thought, oh, it's Paul Thomas Harrison's time. Let's give him the award. These narratives don't hold true. Ultimately, they like Belfast more. They gave it the win. And at the end of the day, if you look at even this year, Critics' Choice Awards, they gave Picture Everything Everywhere All at Once, they gave Screenplay Everything Everywhere All at Once. And then they'll look at the Globes. They gave Banshees of Inisherin Best Film, Drama, and they gave Banshees of Inisherin Best Screenplay. Same thing with BAFTA. They liked Banshees more than Everything Everywhere All at Once, so they gave it Screenplay. Because of the very simple logic of, what movie do you think is going to be more well-liked? The movie that is more well-liked, the movie that I think is going to win Best Picture, Everything Everywhere All at Once, is going to beat out a Banshees in Screenplay. Because also, Everything is this original, unique screenplay, and at the most basic level, is the more well-liked movie. And at the award shows that we've seen this year, and the Oscars in the past, the Oscars do not care about narratives, they care about what movie they like the most, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think it's going to win here, and I actually don't think it's going to be a competition. Best Cinematography, I went with All Quiet on the Western Front, and I think some people are making this out to be a bit of a race between this and Elvis, but it's definitely not, because All Quiet on the Western Front won at BAFTA, beating out Elvis, and won at the British Society of Cinematographers, beating out Elvis. The real sort of number two contenders are Elvis and Top Gun, because Top Gun won Critics' Choice Awards, but Top Gun wasn't nominated here. Elvis won the American Society of Cinematographers, but All Quiet on the Western Front wasn't eligible, wasn't nominated there. In the British Society of Cinematographers, All Quiet beat out Elvis. In BAFTA, All Quiet beat out Elvis. So now that All Quiet is nominated at the Oscars, I expect it to beat out Elvis as well. All Quiet on the Western Front also seems like a cinematography winner because it got nominated in visual effects, it got nominated in Best Production Design, so the visual elements of the film are being appreciated, at least in terms of nominations, so there's a strong sort of correlation there. And it's won the more predictive awards in BAFTA and the British Society of Cinematographers. I think that's important. Also, this movie won 7 BAFTAs, okay? It was nominated for 9 Oscars. It won Best Film, Best Director at the BAFTAs. The British people, the international group of the Academy, they love All Quiet on the Western Front. If you're not predicting it here, and you're not predicting it in, say, Best Sound, where's it going to win? You think a movie that wins Best Film at BAFTA, 7 BAFTAs, is just going to win 1 Oscar, International Feature? You're kidding yourself, you're deluding yourself. A winner of 7 BAFTAs is not going to win just 1 Oscar, it's going to win at least 2, and I think it's going to win here for Best Cinematography. Best Documentary, I'm going to go with Navalny. That's because it has won the BAFTA and PGA for Best Documentary. And if you look at the past 10 years, there's only been 4 movies that have won the BAFTA and the PGA. They have all gone on to win the Oscar. That's a really strong stat towards Navalny's favor. Now, Fire of Love is the other contender. It won the sort of other 2 precursors in the DGA and the Ace Eddie Award. But ultimately, the BAFTAs and PGAs are a more predictive award show, so Navalny has that edge and has that preference there. Also, when you look at past winners of this category, political movies usually win. Navalny fits this time of the Russia-Ukraine war. It's very topical, it feels relevant, versus Fire of Love doesn't really have that topical relevance in the same way Navalny does, which is appreciated in this documentary category. It plays like a political thriller. It's going to be very easy to enjoy and populist. Plus, those wins at BAFTA and PGA are really those things that push it over the edge. So I think Navalny wins for Best Documentary. Best Animated Film, I'm going to go with Pinocchio. It's the winner of the Globe, the Critics' Choice Award, the Annie, the BAFTA as well. It's won everything. It's one of the few movies and few categories that has just swept in every winner. The Oscars love to reward their auteurs in the animated category, and they're going to do the same this year with Guillermo del Toro. Book it. It's a lock to win. Best Costume Design, I'm going to go with Elvis. It's because it's the winner of the BAFTA and the Costume Designers Guild Award, so it has those precursors. Of course, it's from Catherine Martin, who was a 4-time Oscar winner, huge appreciator and collaborator with her husband, Baz Luhrmann, the director of the film. She's sort of the number 2. She's actually nominated for Best Picture as a producer, so she's a clear creative influence of Elvis. I think they're going to want to appreciate that in the costume design category. And the sort of number 2 possible contender, possible winner was someone like Ruthie Carter for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, because it won at Critics' Choice Awards. However, that was very early on in the season, and most recently the Costume Designers Guild happened. And Black Panther actually lost in its category to Everything Everywhere All at Once. Elvis won in its category. They have a split between sort of fantasy comedy versus drama, and Elvis won its category, but Black Panther actually lost Everything Everywhere All at Once. So there's not really a clear number 2. It could be everything, could be Black Panther, but Elvis has won at BAFTA and the Costume Designers Guild, BAFTA beating out Black Panther Wakanda Forever, so I think that's a strong enough sign to go with Elvis for Best Costume Design. Best production design, I'm going to go with Babylon. And there's some stats that go against this being the winner, so I'm a little bit cautious of this winning, but it's won everything else. It's won the Art Directors Guild, beating out Elvis. It won at BAFTA, it won at Critics' Choice Awards. At this point, you have to predict it because it's won everything. Now, there are some stats that go against it, like I mentioned, the fact that I only have Babylon winning one award, and this hasn't happened in which a movie won just production design and nothing else in over 10 years. Also, in the past 9 years, no movie has won Best Production Design and then wasn't nominated for Best Picture. So there's a lot of things going against Babylon, but you have to be flexible. You have to understand that some stats are going to be broken. That's what's going to happen here because Babylon's just been winning everything else. Plus, it does feel like a traditional winner. Got these incredible real sets, not a lot of visual effects set extensions, a lot of real stuff. They use like 300 extras in the film. Also, 3 of the last 6 winners of this category have gone to portraying old Hollywood, so it does seem like something that the Academy likes, and this, of course, follows that similar trend. So if any movie were to break stats and win in this category, it would make sense that it would go to Babylon. Best makeup and hairstyling, I'm going to go with Elvis, and I actually think regardless of what you think is going to happen in the best lead actor category, I think you should still go with Elvis. Why? Of course, it won a Critics' Choice Award, it won a BAFTA, but I say, you know, there's a connection between this category and the acting categories. Oftentimes, the winner of the Makeup Award also has an actor that wins. Think of Gary Oldman. Think of Jessica Chastain. There's been a connection between those 2 awards. And I think there's going to be a connection this year as well, which gives me a little bit more of the confidence that something like Austin Butler is going to win, because I have Elvis so confidently winning here. But regardless of whether or not you think Butler or Fraser is going to win, I think you should still predict Elvis to win in makeup, even if you have Fraser. Why? Because if you look at the Critics' Choice Awards, they went with Brendan Fraser for Best Lead Actor, but then for makeup and hairstyling, they went with Elvis, so they didn't even go with the whale there. Plus, Elvis winning at Critics' Choice, BAFTA, Makeup and Hairstyling Guild, it won 2 awards. The Whale won 1 award, but it's less of an indicative award. You know, the winner before the Whale in that category went to Coming to America, so not really a very predictive award. Whereas Elvis actually won 2 awards of the Makeup and Hairstyling Guild, plus Critics' Choice, plus BAFTA. A lot of things going for it. I'd be surprised if Elvis doesn't win makeup and hairstyling, even if Brendan Fraser wins Best Lead Actor. But of course, because I have Elvis winning here, I actually think it makes sense to have a connection, therefore, to Austin Butler for the win, because we've seen these connections in the past. Gary Oldman, Jessica Chastain. Then for Best Original Score, I'm going to go with All Quiet on the Western Front. And I think a lot of people are overthinking this category. I saw a lot of people talk about how they're going to predict Babylon for this category, which kind of makes sense. But for me, the way I look at it is there are 2 major precursors for the score that we can look at. BAFTA went with All Quiet on the Western Front, and the Golden Globes went with Babylon. So it's either one of those 2 movies. But when I look at those 2 movies, I go, okay, All Quiet on the Western Front won BAFTA, which is the more predictive award show in this category, versus the Globes. That's a point to it. Of course, it's also nominated for Best Picture, nominated for 9 Oscars, well-liked movie. Babylon, only nominated for 3 Oscars. It's not even nominated for Best Picture, so All Quiet on the Western Front is a more liked movie. 7 out of the last 10 winners went to a composer who was a first-time winner. Volker Bruderham, also known as Hauschka, has been nominated before but has never won. Justin Hurwitz has won before, so they want to give another one to Justin Hurwitz, whereas in the 7 out of the last 10 years, they actually like to give it to people who they've never given the award to. And the one thing that's sticking in my craw ultimately is that Justin Hurwitz, of course he won the Golden Globes because he's won 4 Golden Globes now. Every time he's been nominated for a Golden Globe, he's won. And he actually won for the score for First Man back in 2018. But that movie wasn't even nominated at the Oscars. That's sort of hanging me up. Like, did the Oscars really like Hurwitz as much as the Globes? I don't think so. They didn't even nominate his First Man score when the Globes gave him the win for that score. So an interesting kind of a statistic there. So All Quiet on the Western Front with that notable in-your-face score, recognizable score, interesting choice, Best Picture nominee, first-time winner, winner of the BAFTA. Too much stuff going for it. I think that I'm going to ultimately predict it for Best Score. Best Original Song, I'm going to go with Not To Not To for RRR. And this is always a tough category because we don't really have strong precursors that we can look towards versus something like actor or even screenplay categories. But what we do have is the Critics' Choice Awards and the Golden Globes. And every time they have matched up, every time they have gone with the same movie, it has ultimately gone on to win at the Oscars, at least for the past 10 years, which is always my sort of cutoff, the relevance. Because once you go back further and further, it becomes less and less relevant of the modern day Academy, particularly with the recent changes. So there's a strong stat of winning both Golden Globe and Critics' Choice. The other 2 nominees that I think could potentially surprise are Lift Me Up, Black Panther Wakanda Forever or Hold My Hand from Lady Gaga. But both those movies sort of cancel each other out, in my opinion, because they're both pop stars in big blockbusters that are well liked. So I think they sort of cancel each other out, and RRR ultimately comes up with the win. Best Sound, I'm going to go with Top Gun Maverick. It most recently won the Cinema Audio Society Award, in which it actually competed against the exact other 4 nominees as the Oscars, so there's a clear sort of correlation there, in which Top Gun Maverick won in a Guild Award, so that's important there for Best Sound. It also won a couple of awards at the Motion Picture Sound Editors Guild, so that's important, so it has the support there. All Quiet on the Western Front won at BAFTA, but for me that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that All Quiet's 7 BAFTAs are going to correlate with the Oscars. Some are going to fall away. This one makes a lot of sense because BAFTA didn't really like Top Gun Maverick at all. It's very much an American movie, pro-America. The Brits would rather go with the international war film, in this case of All Quiet on the Western Front. So it does seem like a situation where Top Gun Maverick, I think, is going to win at least 1 Oscar. It's got to win somewhere. There's a lot of appreciation, particularly within the Academy and the American members of the Academy. I think they're going to want to show some support somewhere for the film. I'm going to go with Best Sound. And then for Best Editing, I'm also going to go with Top Gun Maverick. Why? Because for 15 years in a row, the winner of the Best Editing Award has also been nominated for Best Sound. And for 9 years in a row, the winner of the Best Editing Award has also won a Best Sound Award. That's a really strong stat. Maybe it's going to break one year. It's inevitably going to break, I think, because the sound category has now merged from editing and mixing to now just sound, but I'm not going to go away with it. It's too strong of a stat. I've been holding strong throughout the entire season. Everything Everywhere All at Once did win at BAFTA, did win at Critics' Choice Awards, but if you look at their predictions, they're actually pretty bad. BAFTA gets it wrong half the time. Critics' Choice gets it wrong more than half the time. About 70% of the time, they actually get it wrong, and that winner was Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a strong case because the movie's well liked, it has been winning, but I think the combination of the connection of, I think Top Gun Maverick's winning Best Sound, so I also think it's going to win Best Editing. Those editing stats are in connection with sound is very rare. It very rarely gets upset. It hasn't done so in 15 years in a row, 9 years in a row. The winner of Best Sound and Editing, what that indicates to us is just that this is how people think of editing and sound, sort of the correlation between them. Listen, it's an out there pick. I'm not necessarily even recommending it, but I do want to go with Top Gun Maverick because of that strong stat and because I think that's how people associate those two categories. And I think Top Gun Maverick's going to overperform at the Oscars, particularly within the Academy, more so than it did at, say, BAFTA. Best International Feature, I'm going to go with All Quiet on the Western Front, the only movie in this 5 lineup that's also nominated for Best Picture. If you're not predicting this, you're crazy. The winner of Best Film at BAFTA, at the very least, is going to win Best International Feature at the Oscars. Book it. Don't predict anything else. Best Visual Effects, I'm going with Avatar: The Way of Water. Similarly here, you don't want to go against history, and this is an obvious stat. Avatar: The Way of Water is nominated for Best Picture. Most visual effects winners are either Best Picture-like or nominated for Best Picture. When you think of Avatar, you think of those groundbreaking visual effects. It won everywhere. It needs to be 8 VES Awards, Critics' Choice Awards, BAFTA. It's won everything. Don't overthink it. Avatar is winning for Best Visual Effects. And now into the short categories. Best Animated Short, I'm going to go with The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And this is actually the one short category that I'm probably the least confident in, but I am going to go with this because Apple's putting a lot of money into this category. They've been doing a lot of ads, and this matters for the short categories because everyone can vote on the short categories. So oftentimes the one that the most people have seen wins, because some people vote in the category without having seen all the nominees and go, oh yeah, I saw that one, okay, I'll vote for it. So having high visibility helps. And also B, it's based on a huge best-selling book. So it's a notable book, so a lot of people know about it already. So they may just vote for it based on their knowledge of the book, or they may watch it because of their knowledge of the book. It does seem like it has a little bit more of a broad appreciation and support. I have a little bit of unsureness, but based on odds and statistics, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, plus it won at BAFTA and the Annie Award. So it has won somewhere before, so it does make sense for me to pick this, although I'm not super confident in it. Best Documentary Short, I'm going to go with Stranger at the Gate. I am strangely confident that this is going to win. First of all, it's being executive produced and campaigned pretty heavily by Malala Yousafzai, who is a world-renowned activist. Malala, you may have read her book. She's really been campaigning for this film, doing stuff for Variety. They've been using her face in a lot of the ads. That really helps for particularly a category like documentary short. I think it's a topic that's really going to appeal to a lot of people in terms of sitting down and having a conversation and coming across our political divides and our religious divides. I think that will resonate with a lot of Oscar members, and it's easy to watch. It's on YouTube, done by The New Yorker. 3 out of the last 5 winners have gone to a short in this category from a news publication like The Guardian or The New York Times. The New Yorker fits that mold very well. Easy to watch, so we know a lot of people are going to watch it too. Like I said, on YouTube, a lot of things going for Stranger at the Gate. Not a lot of people are predicting this. It's got 3-1, 4-1 odds, second, third place, gold derby, betting odds. I actually think Stranger at the Gate is going to win. And then best live action short, I'm going to go with An Irish Goodbye. And I'm a little bit cynical about this category, but I think this has proven successful in recent years. And this is because this is the only movie of the group that is in English. And if you look at the past 10 winners, 8 of the last 10 winners have been in English. Only 2 have been international foreign language films. And oftentimes these winners are either American or in the sort of British, UK, in this case Northern Ireland kind of a industry. So we see a lot of these movies actually win in this category. It does feel, I've seen all the nominees, it feels like the movie that is the most sort of a pitched to be an actual feature, and we've seen that do well in this category before. The movie that seemed like it could actually be adapted into something. It's in English, so I think that just because of that, it's probably going to be the most seen. The other ones are going to be a little bit more daunting. Le Pupille is being campaigned by Alfonso Cuarón, and was shown at Cannes, so it has a little bit of appreciation there, but it's a little bit too light, it's a little bit too unserious. Irish Goodbye is impactful and emotional, and I do think it will resonate with members of the Academy, and it just seems like the typical winner in this category. So best live action short, I'm going to go with An Irish Goodbye. But that's it. Those are my predictions for all 23 categories for the 2023 Oscars. Subscribe to the channel so you hear my thoughts on the Oscar award ceremony at the end. I hope you guys have appreciated all my analysis that I've been doing for months, that I've been doing now for 7 years. If you do appreciate that, leave a comment down below. Let me know your predictions. Like the video. That stuff helps. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.